Thank you for joining us. We're happy to introduce our newest product, Simple Portfolio Management for Jira. We're going to do that by way largely of demo. We only have a handful of slides. It's important, I think, to point out that Simple Portfolio Management was built with Atlassian's latest application development framework. It's called Forge. It's the newest framework from Atlassian and the most secure framework from Atlassian. And it's designed specifically for the cloud environment that many of us are using today. Many of the applications you see in the Atlassian marketplace today, the older applications, were built with Atlassian's previous framework. And as a result, it's less secure and has other challenges related to data storage, geographic location of data storage, etc. So we're excited about the fact that we have this new Forge app that we think will give the other portfolio solutions in the Atlassian marketplace a run for their money. So without further ado, let's get into that and get into our presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Sajid.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, as Dave mentioned, in the next 30, 35 minutes, 45 minutes, we are going to talk about SPM and what it can do. But the focus on the conversation will be towards real world use cases. At any point in time, if you have a question, please use chat. We'll use the same, and then we'll drive the conversation. Let me get started with the couple of slides, as Dave mentioned, about what we actually are going to talk about. So before we actually go to the demo, let me give you a quick background about what Simple Portfolio Management is, or what we call SPM. It's basically a budget-friendly Jira add-on, which lets you report on multiple projects in a simple portfolio timeline, cost tracking views, anything that a project manager might need. We've tried to put that in one add-on. So basically, you don't need to go buy 5 different add-ons from the marketplace for 5 different use cases. The goal is to keep things simple and talk about only the things that you work on a daily basis, rather than bloating the app with 100 different features that you might not need as well. All right, let me talk a little bit about the common PPM challenges that you see on a daily basis. Now, these PPM challenges might be different for different teams, but as you can see on my screen, some of these are very generic. Like, for example, when it comes to project resource visibility, cost tracking, or when you're talking about a big picture, or when we are talking about a timeline level view or a Gantt view of the problems or the issues that you have in your project, how do you map that to the workflows that your teams are currently working on? And that usually turns out to be the problem, because native Jira, while very efficient for tracking and planning purposes, does not give the project manager those tools that they need to answer the bigger question when it comes to questions that come from leadership, for example. Dave, in your experience, anything specifically that used to be always the Achilles heel when you used to work for any project?
Yeah, in my experience, the big problem was all the time that was needed to prepare for a QBR or any type of leadership meeting. You needed to export many different things from Jira into Excel or into PowerPoint. And it was always just a time-consuming task to do all of those things. And unfortunately, some of the existing apps in the Atlassian marketplace are not much better in that regard. They also require you to do a lot of work to create that simple answer to the simple question: where are we today across the portfolio?
Yeah, that's true. Awesome. Thank you for that. So yeah, let's just jump directly into the use cases. The first use case that we're talking about is how do you plan for the big picture? So we start with the biggest concern of all. Natively Jira, you can create your issues, you can have your epic stories and subtasks, but when you want to look at a full view of all the tasks that you're working across on a quarter, until you are on a premium subscription, natively you cannot do that, or you have to install an add-on from the marketplace, which will make you spend a good amount of time understanding it first. And then, depending on how comfortable you are working with that tool, how comfortable you are getting some support, you'd be able to build your own plan or import issues from Jira. there are quite a lot of players out there, but these questions are common that all the users out there who try to solve, right? So the leadership questions around where are we on the big pictures Dave just mentioned, what is slipping in terms of where we are, how much we were supposed to do as of today, and where we might have gone wrong, or what are the delivery milestones for a specific quarter in the year. There there does not exist natively a capacity or a capability inside Jira to show you this until you put some add-ons into picture. But even then, the learning curve on those apps and the time that you might need to use to get used to them is a little tougher. Dave, have you faced this problem, like where you had to build a timeline and you had to, basically, but since the feature does not exist in standard subscription natively, how you used to do that?
Yeah, it's been a challenge for a long time. I'm going to go all the way back to the Jira Server days, where we didn't even have some of the capabilities that you see today. At one point in time, Atlassian actually acquired a company called Portfolio, in order to add portfolio level capabilities to Jira. But as with many acquisitions, and when larger companies acquire small companies, sometimes those acquisitions, it takes a long time for things to become cohesive. I think we're seeing that now in Jira. The product that was formerly called Portfolio is now called Plans within Jira Cloud. More recently, or not too long ago, it was called Advanced Roadmaps. That's come a long way over a long period of time, but nonetheless, as you've already stated, Sajid, it does require you to have a premium or enterprise subscription. And there are many organizations out there that would like these capabilities in the non-premium or enterprise edition of Jira Cloud, and that's where products like Simple Portfolio Management come in. And to answer your question, building those timelines has always been a challenge, and it remains a challenge today, largely because in all of the solutions that I'm familiar with, creating that portfolio level view requires you to create new issue types in Jira, new levels within the hierarchy, at the higher level of the hierarchy, at the top of the hierarchy, excuse me,
Sure.
in order for you to create those views. And in many organizations that I've seen and worked in, that's not desirable. That's difficult to do
Yeah,
because each team has its own way of working.
that's true. That's true. And I'm so glad you mentioned plans, right? Because plans was one of the inspirations when we went to the drawing board to understand what is one of the best ways that we could do this. But how you would see is like these capabilities being input into a product, which makes the life of a project manager easy. We realized even plans fall short in some places because at the heart of it, plans still has the whole uh, blocker of only able to use the data that Jira natively has and not incorporate data from other applications. That's where I feel what we were able to build in our prototypes and in the live product version now on Simple Portfolio, we were able to do that because we were able to create a feature called timelines where you are natively able to create issues in the plan directly and sync them back to Jira as you can do in plans and incorporate existing issues from Jira into your plans as well. Now, this may look kind of like what plans does or plans shows out of the block, but I will take you at this point to our actual demo instance and show you how this will actually look. So look at this elaborate, beautiful looking plan that you're seeing on your screen, which is for a specific project that we have created where you are able to, as for example, as I was saying, you can create an issue directly here. You can create a test ticket or give it a start date or an end date, or you can directly link an issue directly from your backend in Jira where you already might have issues existing from the projects that you might have created. So what this basically does is it gives you the ability to control how you want to build your roadmap, right? So you have your original estimate pulling in from Jira, your time remaining from the time that you have logged in. This unique little thing is where we shine. Not many add-ons in the marketplace will give you this cost. Now, how we arrive at this cost is something that I'm going to hold off for a little bit, and we'll talk to you in a couple of minutes, and we'll show you more about this. But let's dive a little bit deeper on how you can, make more inspired decisions using this timeline. How you can see is I have my product or project in this example split across various phases. I have my stories, tasks, bugs, all rolling up to my official timeline of the project. If there is anything specific that I want, I can sync it. I created a new issue, I can sync it back to Jira, or I can configure this plan where I can group items by a specific thing. So I can group items by status. So let's say, for example, I want to look at the entire plan, but break it down in terms of the statuses. So for example, I can see all the done issues that I have, all the issues that are in backlog, all the issues that are in progress. And when I say progress, you'll be able to see the literal progress on it on the basis of how much time was put into it, how much time was completed, depending on a couple of logic that we have put into the system, looking at the original estimate, looking at the timelines. So those things that gives you much clearer visibility, looking at the dependencies. Those items help you have a much better control and visibility across how you can do that. One major change that we also did on this timeline is you are able to filter it out using a JQL. So let's say, for example, you've built the plan, but you are only looking for your epics, or let's say bugs, for example. So you can filter out your entire plan right here using the JQL, and you can filter your entire plan by just the bugs that you have in your system. You'll notice that you are able to move across the timeline, uh, go across weeks, quarters, months, years. Once you remove this, you are basically back to your original view as well. And in that way, we try to make the aspect of viewing a bigger picture for your project a little more smoother, a little more easier.
I think that's really important, Sajid. There are many times in a leadership meeting where somebody will say, I just want to see the bugs, or I just want to see the new features, or I just want to see, they have something in their own mind
Yeah.
that they want to see. And normally that requires you to have 5 different PowerPoint slides in your back pocket in case those questions come up.
Mhm.
This way we can just do it in real time.
That's right. Awesome. Let's shift back to our use case where we were talking about how can we visualize progress. So now we know how we can visualize progress. Let's take it a step further. Let's talk a little bit about when there are multiple projects in the picture. So you have dozens of initiatives, you're working as part of a PMO, you have issues that are spread across so many projects that you've created 100 issue type fields and custom fields using, Jira issue type schemes, and you're trying to map items like budget and status, or items like start dates and end dates, so you are able to get a clearer visibility around where you are in your project, but you're struggling. Of course, you're struggling because Jira natively is not built for reporting across these project level fields. Uh, that's something that I have always struggled with. There are some add-ons that are now uh, powerful enough, which does give you some visibility into what you can do with project level fields. But we again felt that as a project manager, you shouldn't have to, use one feature for one use case, right? Like that's where the benefit of simple portfolio comes in, because we want to keep things simple and make sure that you are able to leverage the capability inside the same app as well. So coming back to the question itself, which is how do you show that a project A is connected to a strategic goal and project B is not at the click of a button, Dave?
Yeah, it's basically impossible today. I mean, Atlassian is interesting, releasing, excuse me, some new and interesting capabilities in this area, but it remains to be seen what can be done with those, and we'll be keeping an eye on those ourselves, so we're not replicating things you can already do easily in Jira. But in a typical portfolio view today, it's essentially impossible to do those things.
Right. And specifically when it comes to projects in multiple currencies, because a lot of organizations have projects across the globe, and those projects and those budgets are tied to various cost centers which operate in different currencies. Now, you might get a report exporting them into Excel, looking at, the data in your project, but the
That's the way
conversion
everyone does it
is
today. Excel
that
exports.
exactly. And but it becomes very confusing, and you're involving more manual intervention where it doesn't need to be. You're basically taking data from the tool out, making some manual adjustment, and then visualizing it, which can cause issues. That's where Simple Portfolio comes into the picture, because what Simple Portfolio can do is help you report across projects using project fields. So project fields, you're basically creating customizable fields at project level, which you can use to report across projects. What you are seeing in the second screenshot is a native Jira gadget, where I've done a query of show me all the projects in the instance which have more than 5,000 USD, tell me their budget, tell me their status, tell me who's the PM, and I'm able to, at one click of a button, get that information and other bunch of information, whether my project is at risk, who's my sponsor, end date, budget number itself, what is the phase, anything that I want to tag to a project. I don't have to create an Jira issue field, associate with it the issue type, and then use that issue type as project details, and struggle with it across projects. I'll also, in the interest of showing you how this actually works, take you to actual project fields page in the same project. So you'll see that I am able to edit any and all of these fields. I've also added a field called weekly status update. This is something that one of our current customers use it. So a bunch of their PMs update their weekly status update for the leadership in the SPM app itself. And what it does is they are able to get a dashboard view like this, where, as this was a screenshot that I was showing, so I can just clearly see how many projects of mine are on track, what's going. So these are all my high impact projects, right? Where budgets is more than 10,000 USD. I'm working, strongly towards these. Who was my project manager? If something is off track, why is it off track? So I can see I've basically done a JQL or PQL, as we call it, project query language. I'm asking for showing all the projects which are at risk, and it's showing me Milo's Classic is at risk. Website refresh is at risk. Incidentally, both of these are managed by Dave. Dave, I think we need to tighten these
Yeah, we need
projects
to
a
talk
little
about
bit.
what I'm doing wrong.
But yeah, that's how it's going. And like on the other side, you can see on a specific phase, which was again a field that I have created. Like in this example, I have a phase which is development. If I select this as maintenance, and I update this gadget right away, you'll notice, let me just, for this example, let me just save this information, come back here, save this, and just refresh. You'll see the Acme Inc. dev project, which we were on, is automatically on here as well, because the phase is now maintenance. So the PMs can continue to update their information on their own project side, and the leadership and the portfolio managers and whoever the leadership is, basically, they are able to get at a one-click view of all the information that you might need to report across projects. Now that, I feel, something that a lot of leadership teams would love to have. What do you think, Dave?
I think you're absolutely right. And I want to amplify something you said a moment ago that, while Trundle is a platinum Atlassian solutions partner, we are young in the marketplace game. And that means we are very customer driven right now. So the new capabilities that we've added to the product over the last 6 months have all come from customer feedback. And I hope we keep it that way for a long, long time. As companies become bigger and as products become older, it becomes much tougher to do that. But we plan to keep this as a key tenet of the way we develop software, is to be just very responsive to customer needs.
100% agreed. 100% agreed. All right. Let's move on to the next use case, where we are trying to solve the problem of budgets. Now, this is a very sensitive topic, because a lot of organization will invest in the projects and the add-ons. But when it comes to budgets and cost, that's where things get tricky. Because first, you don't want to show this information to everybody. It's confidential information. You want to keep it to the people who are authorized to see that information. And Jira, while it has issue level security inbuilt into it, does not do a very great job in showing or hiding those kind of information, or unless you have to build a very elaborate scheme in your Jira project itself to make sure that your finance lead sees it, finance team member does not see it. There might be some other confusing roles or projects that might get into picture, and you're still struggling to answer the simple question, are we over budget? Because that's the bottom line at the end of the day that teams wants to know. Are we over budget? Are we going to spend more? Who is logging more time on this project than they are supposed to? How you are getting that information? What were your planned tasks and how much have you burned? The main problem is there is no one clear view. You can look across timesheets, you can look across reports, but you answer this simple question is where most of the add-on struggle in the marketplace as well. Dave, I know you've in your experience also worked with a lot of companies who for whom cost management is a very key concern. How have you handled it in your past?
It was always an Excel export, partly because, as you said, the right to view or the need to know those cost, those actual dollars and costs, is something that many companies are passionate about keeping to certain folks at certain levels. And it's easier to say these people get the Excel spreadsheet, these
Yeah.
people do not. But moreover, the struggle is usually relates to, especially in a global organization, when the cost centers are spread around the globe and they're managed by different people, and as you said earlier, with different currencies, getting all of that into one condensed picture that's easy to show to the leadership team,
Yeah.
is just extremely, extremely challenging. And I'm going to repeat myself here, but it always comes back to it. It becomes so time consuming that you need 2 or 3 days to prepare for these meetings every
Yeah.
month. And that's just, for many organizations, I think we feel it's a huge waste of time. It can be done
Mhm.
simply now, anyway, with our product.
Now, yeah, perfect segue to how do we actually simplify cost? We do it by a feature that we built called Cost Tracker. Cost Tracker basically acts as your Excel export itself because we are able to pull the data that your team members have logged into their respective time, into their respective tasks via the roles that they are assigned to in the project. We understand that a lot of these people might be tagged to multiple roles. We've built a feature where you are able to create local project specific roles inside the app so that you can segregate those users as well and get a clear visibility of how much a specific person or a role is costing you by getting into the app itself. So time to show off the feature itself. Let's get into how does the cost tracker actually look. You are able to create multiple time trackers. Now, the cost tracker itself is a summation of time tracker, which is where the time comes in, where you are able to put in your rates across your resources, the time logs that they have, the weightage that those people might have across multiple roles, and the expenses that your project may have, like for example, licensing, like for example, accounting, hardware, printing, security, whatever you might need, which is a cost to the project, you are able to create that cost here and associate it with the project for you to get the clearer visibility around what your cost is. Let's come back to the time tracker itself. When I edit this time tracker, I am able to put a start date and end date. This gives me a visibility. Let's say I'm only looking for a cost for a specific quarter. I can do that. I can select my roles. And as you can see, what I was mentioning earlier, we are able to create roles inside the app, associate people to those roles, and then pull that role into the cost tracker itself by giving a weightage. When, like, for example, you'll see Sarika is 20% working as a Bitbucket admin, uh, 50% working as a admin, and 30% working as a developer with different rates. Now, when I give it different rates, you'll be able to get the planned cost and an actual effective cost for that role as well. And this actually gives you the visibility of how you can play around as well. You can see that you have a total cost where your developers are contributing this much, your admins are contributing this much. When you go inside, you can dig more deeper into who's costing you how much. So those kind of questions, it's a little tough to get the answers to when you're exporting this into Excel and trying to see. But inside the app, Simple Portfolio actually lets you do that. We've also got two little neat features in here where you can choose to include it in the total cost or not. Like, for example, I said you can create multiple time trackers and not include it in the total cost and keep just it as an FYI. So I want to have one for the entire year, which I will include in the total cost. But for me as a project manager, I would create one for just this quarter. So I see quarterly I'm on trend as well. Yeah. The other major feature which I specifically love is the include it in timeline. Now, this is how our app is able to pull this neat little feature. When I am able to use the rates that my team has defined in the cost tracker. So like for administrators, it's 150, with Sarika logging 30 hours and Sajid logging 30 hours, Sarika logging 58 hours. I'm able to get a cost on a specific hour. So like, for example, if this AID4 is costing me, uh, $900, this is the reason why. If AID2 implementing dark mode toggle for UI is costing me $945, it's doing it because Sarika has logged this much amount of hours, Sajid has logged this much amount of hours in their respective roles, and you're able to get a cost from it. Now, this cross-track dependency and cross-track alignment is what brings the beauty. Because now from here, you are able to look at the budget in the same app, look at the cost in the same app, look at the timeline in the same app, and most importantly, look at the cost inside the timeline. Now you are able to see your entire cost for your planning phase. How much is your requirement analysis phase costing you? Where a lot of projects bleed time, where you keep working back and forth with your teams or your customers working on a specific problem, but you don't realize how much time or cost you actually bled into that phase. So this actually gives you that visibility and you are able to stay on top of that problem. All right. With that, we come back to the presentation. And while we've talked about what can, cost tracker, project fields, and timelines do for you, there is still a bigger problem. How do you do this without breaking the bank? Because you can get these three add-ons or some variation of these three add-ons from the marketplace. But how do you do this without breaking the bank? How do you go to your project admin or project sponsor and say, hey, you want to see this information? You will have to shell out this many bucks. You do that by using Simple Portfolio because we made this app very budget friendly. Dave, you want to talk a little bit more about our pricing strategy here?
Yeah, I just want to again amplify something you just said. If you don't already know this, and if you're attending this webinar, the chances are you do know this. To get the capabilities that we're showing you here today, you typically have to buy 2 to 3 different applications from, sometimes you can get them all from the same vendor, AppFire and Tempo in particular, and sometimes you can get them from 1 or 2 different vendors, but you're going to need 2 or more applications to do the things that we've shown you today. And in our case, you need 1 application. I do think it's important to point out in the previous segment where we were talking about time tracking, we're not introducing a new form of time tracking here. We're using what you already have, either in native Jira, the time tracking built into native Jira, or you might be using Tempo timesheets. And we're also going to support in the coming months the new time tracking kit on the block from AppFire, 7Pace. So we're going to implement all of these things in a single application using the built-in capabilities that you already have. And that's going to help us keep the cost down.
Yes, perfect. Thank you for pointing that out, Dave. One more thing that I would just like to call out on the same thing is while we are pulling the time logs from Jira, we are also integrating with Tempo. So if you are using Tempo Planner to plan your team's time and like logging time, or historically you use Tempo and you've logged time, there is an in-app integration available where you are able to pull in that information directly from Tempo into SPM. So if two projects use Tempo, one uses native Jira time logging functionality, you still are able to get the dashboard that we just showed you today. Awesome. So yes, coming back to the pricing piece, Dave.
Yeah, so essentially it starts at $1.99 per user and goes down from there. That's extremely budget friendly compared to the other solutions available in the marketplace. And it does not require, although you can use this with enterprise or premium Jira, it does not require an upgrade to premium or enterprise. So we're being very aggressive here with the pricing. We don't. Our plan is to keep the pricing always budget friendly. I'm not saying we'll never increase the price, but I am saying we'll always be the budget friendly alternative to the other options that you have in the marketplace.
Yeah. And one thing that I would also highlight is we are already on Forge. So we are on the Atlassian's future of app marketplace app technology, which is called Forge. If you've I'm sure you might have, if you're attending this webinar, you've heard about Forge. Forge is the latest kid on the block, which is revolutionizing how Atlassian apps are being made on the marketplace. We are already on it. We use that technology and did not use the existing Atlassian Connect Express for the same. So yeah, we are already looking in that direction where Atlassian is going in terms of security, in terms of data retention, and we've built elaborate permission schemes inside the app so you can define to the point of which field should be visible to which person in your project. And we recommend or welcome you to try out the app from the marketplace, install it, just have a quick look at what are all the features. So I'll give you a quick summary of what are the features that we just talked about. We talked about project level fields where you are able to see a real-time cost converter or a currency converter. You can reports on phases, you can report on gadgets, you can define your project's red, amber, green status. You can use timelines where you can visualize work, you can roll up your estimates. And my favorite, the cost tracker, we are able to get your cost to date, use JQL and date filters. You can get a visual representation of a pie chart. And to top it all off, all three of these features come with an embedded audit log as well. So at any point in time, you realize that your budget has accidentally changed. Who changed it is not a question that you'll worry, because the audit log will keep a track of every single update in the app, no matter who makes it. So you as a PM will always keep a tab of what changed and who changed it. Before we
Awesome.
move on, there is one more thing that we need to realize. Now, this was the version one that we have launched a while back. But we realized that while we were doing this, we were still not able to answer all the questions when it came to a portfolio, true portfolio, right, Abe? So like we were able to work across multiple projects, but when it comes to a portfolio of projects, we were still not 100% there. And that's where we built in some more capabilities into the app, where we were able to use portfolio cost tracker and a portfolio timeline. So the exact same feature that you saw for timeline, we also built it for a portfolio of projects together. Just like you create a filter in Jira, you can create a timeline across multiple projects, define the hierarchy. Let's say the first hierarchy you want is project, the next hierarchy you want is assignee, the third hierarchy you want is status. You can define your start date and date, who you want to be the viewer, editor of this specific timeline. And once you've built that, you can share this timeline with those people as well. So this portfolio level timeline looks and feels exactly like what we just showed you in the normal timeline, but you are able to bucket some of the items. Let's say, for example, you want to bring together the Acme Inc. dev and the multi-app support project in one box. You are able to create a folder drag and drop projects into that folder. Like for example, you can see I've created a folder called priority for Q2, and I've pulled these two projects into this. And now I am only planning or looking through these two projects. So I'm looking at when these tasks are starting, when they are ending, when the second project is starting, what are the tasks they have. And I can go deep into any of these fields. I can create and add any of the fields that I have from Jira back in here and see that, visualize that information as well. So basically, the ability to club projects together and get a portfolio level view of where your projects are heading or where your portfolio is heading is also available in Simple Portfolio for Jira. That being said, the timeline is not the only feature that we built for portfolio. We also have a cost tracker. Now, cost tracker, just like as the name suggests, gives you the ability to club multiple projects together, use the same date logic, currency logic, and you are able to have a view where you are able to look at multiple projects in one view. So you can see, let's say I'm the project sponsor or I'm the executive sponsor. I can create a cost tracker where I can see where my team is logging time. I can go into the details of who is overburning. So you can see, I had planned 35 hours for Sarika. She has already logged 41. So she's running a little high. And I am able to get that information at the top in one section. So I can see where my entire team and which projects they're overburning than the project's planned hours. Now, this view becomes very critical for somebody who is just trying to maintain it from a cost perspective, right? Somebody who's the executive sponsor or somebody who is more concerned about the timeline, the finance team, right? Your in-house finance team. If you're a solutions team, for example, you don't have to go into Jira and ask your PMs every time. You can directly get this view at one click of a button. My second favorite feature of the app is the ability to switch this from a project first to a user first. Now it doesn't matter what I have here because I can see all the people who are in these three projects working across. As you'll see, except Jeevan, literally everybody is in some way or shape or form overburning what they had estimated. Robert is doing that in Acme, Sajid is doing in Acme, Sarika is
I've never
doing in.
seen people underestimate before. That's never happened.
Yeah. Only Jeevan is, a little under budget, but everybody else is overburning. And you can see that very clearly. And this view becomes very powerful when you're trying to look at a team of more than, a couple of developers or testers, because you can bring everybody at the same page and you are able to take a very viable decision that you can, take to, change this so that this kind of problems do not occur. You might not even know this. You might not even have this view where you are able to, at one place, decide that how many of your teammates are overburning the projects that they were supposed to work on. Right? Natively, you can't do that. So this kind of view becomes very helpful. And of course, you have the dynamic dashboard with you there. You can see it in detail, who's working on which projects and what direction. All right. With that, we come back to what we were talking about. The main three features plus the portfolio cost tracker and timeline. And I think all we've got to do is talk a little bit about what's the
We do have
promotion that is going on.
a couple of questions from the audience, Sajid.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
One of them we just covered, but let's reiterate just a bit. The customer asks, or the attendee asks, whether or not you support tempo time tracking, and we already answered that question. We do.
Yep.
So there's no need to have a separate new time tracking app. You can either use native Jira time tracking, use Tempo, and in the near future, we'll also support the AppFire solution called 7Pace. Another question that's asked here is, what's the significance of Forge relative to data residency? Can you answer that question, Sajid?
Sure. So think of Forge as Atlassian owning the data, where earlier in Atlassian Connect applications, it's on the marketplace developer to store that data. That is one single definition that differentiates ACE with Forge. So we do have a Connect application or a Atlassian Connect Express app on the marketplace. It's called Smart Assignments and Rotations. And we host the app on our servers. That means people who use that app have some data in the app are stored, that data is stored on our servers. Now, while we have strengthened our AWS services and our servers, it still is at the marketplace vendor's ownership. With Forge, Atlassian has removed that limitation, and now all data resides where your Jira resides. So it's example, if you are governed by GDPR, if wherever your data resides is where the app's data will reside as well. So you don't have to worry about these, worries about your data going out from your jurisdictional areas or, any other legal or compliance regulations that you might have.
Great. Another question is related to pricing. Do I have to buy, is the licensing pricing that you showed a moment ago related to the simple portfolio management user or the Jira user?
So natively, Atlassian Marketplace works on the highest tier licensing model. That means if you are on Jira and you have Jira Service Management, let's say you have 10 Jira software users and 30 Jira Service Management agents, the higher tier being JSM, that's the cost that will be incorporated for the license cost. So whichever is your highest tier Jira product or Atlassian product in that ecosystem, that tier's user count will be used to calculate the cost, not the actual users. There are in near future conversations around changing this model as well. There are multiple uh, licensing model that Atlassian is working with marketplace partners where we are given some freedom. Yeah, some freedom, I would say. It's still something that is very up for discussion. It's going to be a big talking point in the next coming months where the licensing models might differ for different add-ons. But as of today, it still exists on the highest user tier, which we also support.
Right. That's something that Atlassian imposes on us and the other marketplace partners. We have no choice in this matter. However, that's why you see the per user pricing that you see here. We recognize and understand that while many users in the organization will derive value from the product, not all of them will use the product.
Yeah.
And that's why you see the user pricing here. We factored this in to our pricing decisions. So to the point that Sajid just made, if Atlassian does enable us to offer per user pricing, you would certainly see a higher per user price is the other way. That's the flip side of this coin. So we're being aggressive, but at the same time, you wouldn't see these prices if you were only licensing this for 5 PMO members, for example.
Mhm.
Great.
Awesome.
That's it for questions for now.
Awesome. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me or Dave on LinkedIn. Very happy to have that conversation, or you can directly reach out to us via the the Trundle reach out us page as well. But before we close, we do want to talk about the offer that we have going on, Dave.
Yes. So for anyone who's attended this webinar, actually, honestly, even if you just signed up for the webinar and didn't have a chance to attend and you're watching this after the fact, we do have a discount program. As I mentioned earlier, this is a young product for us, and we're young in the Atlassian marketplace as well. And so product feedback is extremely important to us. So anyone who's attended this webinar or is watching this video, as long as you promise to us that you'll give us ongoing feedback in the product for the first year of use, hopefully beyond that, but in the first year of use, you get a 50% discount in return for that feedback. That makes the product practically free, but that's okay because that feedback is actually more important to us in the short term than the revenue.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, please, I'll keep the screen on for a couple more seconds so you can take a screen grab or just scan the code or just go to Atlassian Marketplace and search for Simple Portfolio Management. You'll be able to find our app. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at products@trundle.com and reach out to me or Dave on LinkedIn or anybody else on the Trundle side. We're very happy to always take any questions. And as Dave mentioned, this app is built over the period of last couple of months, almost 10 years now, with feedback from our customers, right? So we are very, very young in the marketplace, though we are a platinum partner on the solution side. We are very hungry for more use cases, hear more problems for project managers, for agilists, for scrum masters, the issues that you have in your respective organizations, verticals, or industry. Please share them with us. We'd be very happy to work with you and resolve those complaints or issues and see if the one app can solve all of use cases.
Yes, absolutely. Great.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining in.
Attending today. Yeah, we really appreciate you being here. And as Sajid just said, reach out to us at products@trundle.com with any remaining questions you may have or to claim that discount. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.